Hey guys, it's Katie at scrappinkaty.ctmh.com, bringing you day 27 of the 31 Days of Christmas Cards, which is a video collab on YouTube featuring the creative design team members.
Okay, so for today's card, I am using the stitched rectangle frames, and you can see that I have already cut those here. And then I'm going to be using this Comfort and Joy scrapbooking stamp set and thin cuts. And I know you've seen this stamp set a lot on this series, as well as from me and my Instagram account, but I just can't get enough of these poinsettias, and because they come with the thin cuts, then it makes it really easy for me to stamp them up and layer them. Now, keep in mind that most of our stamp sets also come with just the stamp set. So if you do not have a die cutting machine, this is definitely a stamp that could easily be fussy cut around those petals as well as these sentiments. So, like I said, I've already cut these off camera, and what I love about our thin cuts, the stitch brackets, as you can see, this larger one actually created two pieces, as well as this middle size one. So now I have two pieces to work with, and I love that in creating. Now I could actually use these two pieces, or like today, I'm going to only use one, and then I will save this for another project.
So I am going to take these pieces and then pull out my multi-purpose mat and a white daisy ink pad. Now I've just pressed the lid down onto the ink pad and taking a water brush, picking up some of that ink and then splattering it all over that black piece. You can also turn your pad over on your multi-purpose mat and then do it that way. So then I'm also going to pull out my clear shimmer brush, and I love that I can also pick up some of that white ink and then also add some shimmer. You can tell there a little bit, and then you'll also see in the still photos at the end of this video. So I'm just repeating that process for this tiniest piece, and then I'm going to clean up my workstation and then get ready to assemble the card. So for this card, I'm going to use the Comfort and Joy scrapbooking stamp set. Now for these poinsettia leaves, I'm going to pull out my scarlet ink and I'm just going to ink those up. Now I love that these petals, there's always one or two petals that you can tell that they get lined up with that die cut. And then I'm going to go ahead and ink up that thin petal leaves. You can see the difference. And then finish that off camera, as well as cut some of those thin petals out of the evergreen glitter paper. And I love how that looks. So all my stamping is done, and so now it's just a matter of assembling this card. Now I do want a French vanilla frame around each one of these black cardstock pieces. So I am just trying to decide if I want a 1/4 inch or an 1/8 inch. So I've decided on the 1/8 of an inch. So I'm cutting these an 1/8 of an inch larger than my black pieces. So there'll be a 1/16 of an inch all the way around to kind of break up all of that black that's created by these larger pieces. So even though my matted pieces are the French vanilla, because I mass produce these Christmas cards, I am going to be using the white daisy card and envelope value pack. And I really don't think it's going to make a difference for the people that I'm sending it to. And so I have matted that black cardstock onto that card base. And then now I am doing those stitched thin cut border pieces. I am gluing those on top of that French vanilla. So I'm going to finish off this small piece. Now I'm being really careful. I'm actually doing this before I have to go to work. We did have an ice day here in Texas. And so I'm trying to do this before I have to get ready. And so I didn't have time to let it dry. So I'm being really careful when I adhere those pieces down. Now for the sentiment, I did cut 2 of these so I could just add the stamped sentiment onto just that blank sentiment and add a little bit of dimension without adding thin 3D foam tape. So for my poinsettias, you see here that thin leaf of the poinsettia, it's really kind of meant to be the leaves. But you see that a lot of us have used those as just an extra layer for the red, the colored leaves. So I'm going to stack those on top of each other and then play around with the petals. And then I'm going to adhere those to that evergreen glitter paper. I'm going to use liquid glass because it just seems to stick better on on that glitter paper. So I'm going to glue those down, hold them down really quick. That liquid glass does dry pretty fast. And then so now I'm going to start laying down my poinsettia. So I'm going to do this one in that bottom right corner and then take some of these leaves and put behind the poinsettia, the flower. That's one benefit of only adhering the center of the flower down, is that now I can tuck in those leaves behind those petals. So for my sentiment, I think I want it to go kind of off to the left to offset that poinsettia on the bottom right. So I'm just going to add some liquid adhesive and go ahead and get that adhered down. And I am going to go ahead and add one of those little twigs to the top instead of it being a red twig. So I am pretty happy with that. I am going to add some goldenrod stickles. It is my favorite stickles so far. And then here's where trying to rush and do things does not work in my favor. So I've decided that that cheer just had a little bit too much white around it. And so I cut that off, and then I'm going to re-adhere the Christmas. All the while, I am just getting my fingers all in those stickles. You can't really see it now, but those stickles are just everywhere. So I'm going to kind of blot that up. Luckily enough, it was dry enough that it just wiped off with a paper towel. And then where you can see that I pulled off the cheer sentiment, I'm going to add that smaller poinsettia as well as some of those little berry twigs. I'm going to add some liquid adhesive and then tuck that behind, trying to hide the flat part under the word Christmas so you really can't tell that I cut it. I'm going to add those stickles again that I had to wipe off, and then this card is pretty much done. So for the inside of the card, I am going to create a mask. And so usually I cut my stamps apart. You guys have seen me do that. But the word Christmas just kind of goes too far down and is attached to the sentiment cheer. So I decided masking would be best. So I just inked that up in scarlet. And now the sentiment will read Christmas cheer. So here I'm going to trim that piece down just 1/4 of an inch, and that way it can kind of play like it has the same border that those front layers have, if that makes sense. And even though I am working with a white daisy center, I think by gluing it down with just a border around it just kind of mimics what's on the front. So I'm going to adhere this down, and then I'm going to finish off the inside with, there is a little bow that comes in this Comfort and Joy scrapbooking stamp set. And it also has a thin cut, but I'm not going to use the thin cut. I'm just going to ink it up in evergreen ink to kind of bring in that evergreen that's in that glitter paper. And I'm just going to stamp it on the left top corner of that cheer. And so now the card reads Christmas cheer, and I'm loving the black. Here is a sneak peek of something new coming next month. And that's where I got the inspiration to bring the black into my Christmas card. So here are some close-ups. Again, you could definitely change out the black for a different color if you're not feeling the black for a Christmas card, but I love it. Here's a reminder of the last week and the lineup that we have going. Now, thank you so much for watching. And remember, tomorrow, Carrie from Miss Carrie's Creations is up. Now, I will leave a link to her channel tomorrow, but you could head on over there and subscribe now so you won't miss a thing. And keep in mind, we are saving this to a playlist. So at the end of the month, you will be able to watch all of our videos, one right after another, so you can make your own Christmas cards.